Major Hurricane Erin is beginning to re-intensify this evening and will continue to do so overnight into tomorrow, and at the same time become a much larger hurricane over the coming days. The wind field will expand further out away from the center of this system. So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to go over all the latest information that we have on Erin. I'm not going to lie, this is getting a little bit too close for my liking as far as the East Coast. Places like the Outer Banks, portions of it are being evacuated now, and this could get close to you guys. Of course, we could see impacts in Bermuda, and we could even see impacts in southern New England, and especially as we get into Atlantic Canada. So we're going to talk on the latest track, go over model guidance. We'll talk on potential impacts, what's changed. After we get done talking about Erin, there's other areas to watch too. We have an area of interest dubbed by the National Hurricane Center, basically another tropical wave to watch as a shot to develop over the next several days. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling tonight. So this is Erin, still has maintained that Category 3 120 mile per hour status. Has not really intensified at all since, say, this morning, but it's been undergoing a very long, what we call eye wall replacement cycle. And this is definitely one of the longer ones I've ever seen, but it's beginning to recover now, and we expect this to re-intensify into a Category 4 hurricane. And what happens here is, you see, this is the center of the storm. Basically, the inner eye wall collapses. This makes the outer eye wall eventually become the new inner eye wall. And when that happens, it weakens the storm as a whole. But once it's complete, the actual wind field expands further out away from the storm system. But I really think this is going to intensify another, 20 miles per hour at most. Maybe could it clip a Category 5 again? Listen, we're not going to totally say that that's not off the table, but for now, the peak forecast intensity is still a Category 4 system. Of course, we've already peaked out at a Category 5 160 mile per hour storm, but listen, this thing's still popping off very cold cloud tops, which means it has intense convection wrapping around the center of this storm. This is indicated by the whites and the pinks we see here. Colder cloud tops means stronger storms, more taller updrafts. The taller up you go, the colder it gets in the atmosphere, and this is reflected by the colors you see on your screen. But you can tell there's no cleared out eye, but they're starting to get some colder cloud tops, a little bit of a dry slot showing up here. So I do wonder as we wake up tomorrow morning if we're going to just see a better cleared out eye of the system like we saw, say, yesterday. So this is the system right now. Just wanted to explain what was going on. Of course, we got the Dominican Republic. We got Haiti down here, Puerto Rico at the bottom of your screen. The Turks Caicos Islands starting to see some heavy impacts. So that's current conditions with this system. Right now, it is at a 946 millibar storm. So at its lowest, it was a 915 Category 5 hurricane. So of course, that millibar has risen, which means this is weakened because of that eye wall replacement cycle. And this is normal with hurricanes. Nothing unusual about that, especially when we have a very strong hurricane. It's almost like to get too strong for their own good and has to undergo that eye wall replacement cycle. But anyways, enough of all that. We have tropical storm warnings up for the Turks Caicos Islands, and rightfully so. The southeastern Bahamas now have tropical storm warnings up. I do wonder if we'll get any issued for this area of the Bahamas also. I think we will. But as we start to get to about 2 a.m. tonight, forecast to become a Category 4 again. By the time we wake up tomorrow, I definitely think we'll have a Category 4 hurricane once again. But peak intensity from now until the rest of the life of this system is now at 145 miles per hour. So that's a mid-grade Category 4 hurricane, and then should be about right here. And let's make this a little bit larger. 140 mile per hour hurricane right here around 2 a.m., 130 by 2 p.m. Tuesday. So we could still be talking about a Category 4 hurricane for another 48 hours. And of course, Bermuda's way over here. And here's the Carolina coastline, southeast coastline. This should weaken into still a major hurricane, but a Category 3 storm. And man, it's like it splits the gap perfectly between the Carolinas and Bermuda. East Coast and Bermuda. But listen, I want to reiterate this again. This is not the impact cone. This is not an impact cone. So this doesn't mean, hey, if you're in the Outer Banks, you should be good. No impacts at all. This is where the actual center of the storm could go. So the center of the storm still could go, excuse that, that's from drawing on the video earlier. I got to remember to get that off. The center of the storm could actually go over here still, which would bring more impacts over here. or it could still go this way, which would bring more impacts to Bermuda. So we're going to see impacts outside of this cone regardless. And we're going to talk more on that here in a second. So let's get that back off your screen. Let's continue to move forward here. And just to widen this out, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, you are not in the cone yet, but I do think St. John's, the Avalon Peninsula, southeast Newfoundland is going to be in this cone eventually, but still a powerful 100-mile-per-hour Category 2 hurricane by 2 p.m. Friday. So just want to go over all that, the latest information from the National Hurricane Center. Now let's go over model guidance. So Euro says it's going to be a 958 millibar low. We're really just going to ignore the strength of the storm that the models are showing for any given time because they have been just dead wrong on it. The path, pretty straightforward. They've done pretty well, but strength, just terrible. So by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, this will be making its closest path to, say, the Turks Caicos Islands, which is right here, bringing outer bands. This has just continued to wobble west. We don't want this to get any further west. Of course, we're not necessarily pulling for this to destroy Bermuda, but we're hoping that this just splits Bermuda and the East Coast beautifully, and it could, where it doesn't bring significant impacts to anybody. But we start to get into Tuesday. This is beginning to jog north. Still a powerful hurricane. It's close enough to areas of the Bahamas, bringing some outer bands on the western side of the system, strong, gusty winds. We get into Wednesday morning. This is basically in the what you call the Bermuda Triangle. This is right between the Carolina, southeast coastline, Bermuda, and the Bahamas. We got a powerful, probably still Category 4 hurricane sitting here. And then by the time we start to get into, say, a Thursday morning, let's go on and get just a little bit closer to this. We might as well. Look how close this is to the outer banks. Outer banks, outer bands. I keep twisting those words up because they're so close. Well, we got a powerful hurricane right at the coastline, close enough to actually bring some outer bands to the outer banks. And I'm going to talk about this here in a minute. They've actually evacuated, a mandatory evacuation for areas of the outer banks. This is going to bring significant tidal erosion, beach erosion to you guys. And we're going to speak more on that here in a second and why. But this makes a close pass, guys. So what about the rest of the Euro? How close does it get to, say, southern New England? Well, it's pretty far off the coast. It looks like it jets east-northeast pretty fast. But I still think that this could bring some impact, some strong gusty winds along the southern coastline of southern New England, even Jersey Shore, Long Island. Got to watch out for the tidewater also. And then we look up the road to, say, Newfoundland. Nova Scotia, it misses you to the south. And the Euro really wants to just completely rip apart this storm now and keeps the majority of it pretty south and southeast and east of Newfoundland as we're getting into Saturday. All right, so what about the GFS? The GFS has continued to tick west. Now, whether it just continues to tick west in agreement with the Euro, we just got to continue to watch it. So once again, we start off Monday morning, tomorrow morning. This is making its closest pass to the Turks Caicos Islands. We start to get into Tuesday. Starts to get into that no man's land here between Bermuda, southeast coastline, and the Bahamas. How close does it get? Here it goes, splitting the gap. Right here, this is around Wednesday night and Thursday morning, makes its closest pass to the Outer Banks and Bermuda. Bermuda being this speck right here, Outer Banks being right here. But I'm going to stop it right here. Let's stop it right there. Okay, this is Wednesday evening, August the 20th, here in the next few days. I'm going to go back about 10 runs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, watch this 10-run trend and how this has just gotten closer and closer and closer. Okay, kind of took Bermuda out of the worst of the impacts, but I'm telling you, I'm going to talk more on this here in a couple minutes, but if we can somehow split, because I'm telling you this wind field is going to get huge. If we can somehow split the Outer Banks and Bermuda perfectly enough to avoid major impacts, I'm not going to call it a miracle, but we're going to be very fortunate. Okay, now, how close does this get, say, to the northeast? Here it comes. It's pretty far off the coastline, but didn't want to ignore you folks, but it's pretty far off. What about Newfoundland? Here it comes, and Friday, and good news, the latest GFS for Newfoundland, St. John's, it misses you guys for the most part. If you tuned in from this morning's video, you saw that the GFS hit you guys pretty hard. So the GFS and the Euro kind of in solid agreement with Atlantic Canada. Okay, now let's go over some hurricane models. And I'm really just going to show you guys because I want you guys to notice how much this wind field expands as it moves north because of this eye wall replacement cycle and that basically the downstream effects of it over the next several days. So this is Monday evening. And don't worry about how strong the winds are. I'll speak on that here in a second, but watch how this area expands and gets larger. So we get, say, into Tuesday, we get into Wednesday, and we get into Wednesday night, and then we're all the way into like Thursday morning. You see how much larger this is now compared to, say, tomorrow? I mean, this is expanded outward. So this green area, this is basically tropical storm force winds, 40 mile per hour winds or higher, right? So it's pretty far out from the center. Okay, but in this particular run, splitting perfectly to not bring too strong of winds to the East Coast or Bermuda. It's like a beautiful, perfect clearing that we get. So this doesn't go all the way out to Newfoundland, so I can't show you guys, but something like the HFA model, a little bit scarier here. Expands that wind field, but gets it very close to the outer banks. Okay, so you see that green area, that's, getting to 30, 40 knots. So, I mean, that's over tropical storm force winds and miles per hour starting to get in just a stout northerly flow in general. Depending on where you are, it could be more of a northeast flow. But, of course, we know that these spin cyclonically like this. So the flow is just going to be racing right up against out the northeast of the outer banks. Yeah, guys, I mean, this could bring some significant impacts. Look how large this wind field gets, even as this gets into further out in the North Atlantic. I mean, you guys are even going to get some gusty winds, certainly in Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Southeast Mass. Yeah, so let's go over some model guides as far as estimated wind speeds off some models. Okay, so this is the Euro. This is predicted wind gusts, not sustained winds. And hey, it wants to drop a 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gust out on Cape Hatteras, Rodanth, and even some strong gusty winds even inland off the outer banks, okay? Even in eastern North Carolina, some 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts all the way up to, say, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, the Tidewater, very strong gusty winds. But I mean, this is tropical storm force conditions. I really think there's a legitimate chance that we get tropical storm warnings up for the outer banks. I mean, I think we will. But, this is the GFS, this is the Euro. I'm sorry, that was the Euro, this is the GFS. And even the GFS has ticked a little bit closer. Got, 30, 40 mile per hour wind gust out here, but still, it's not as west as, say, the Euro. Now, if we look at the run, say, 2 runs ago, you can see how this is, ticked west. See how that wind field just ticked west like that? So you got to watch. Now, even though that this is like further off the coastline of, say, New England, all right, the wind field expands even more as this gets north. So, the Euro's saying, hey, 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts possible in Southeast Mass, maybe even Rhode Island. Some strong gusty winds up against Jersey Shore, Long Island. Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket could get, in that kind of orange shaded color here. I mean, that's 50, 55 mile per hour wind gusts. So some strong gusty winds are possible. The GFS, and not quite as bad. Now, what about up to our folks here in Atlantic Canada? You guys go by kilometers per hour, I believe. So it has about a 70 to 90 kilometer per hour wind gust. I think that's like equivalent to, some tropical storm force wind gusts. We'll actually have to flip it to this because I'm not going to pretend like I know kilometers per hour by heart or anything. Well, dang, they don't have miles per hour over here, but we can look at knots. And so 40, 50 knots, that's tropical storm force winds. So, if you look at, say, the GFS, not as bad. So we'll continue to watch you guys. But listen, this is the last thing I'll discuss as far as winds. Now, this is the HFB model. Of course, this is the meat of the hurricane, right? This is getting into Tuesday morning. These colors right here symbolize over 100 mile per hour wind gusts. Obviously with a category 3-4 hurricane, that's what you're going to get. Okay, but I want you to watch how this gets to, well, dang, I thought we had further out than that. That stinks. Come on. Yeah, okay, we do. So I don't know what's going on. This is when it makes its closest pass between Bermuda and the Outer Banks. Okay, that's the Outer Banks, right? This is the heart of Hurricane Erin. That's the eye. Listen, you don't have to get very far off the coastline to get extremely strong winds. But what's impressive to me is Bermuda's right over here. It's not shown, but this is splitting Bermuda. If this was the way it's going to happen without any ticks one way or the other, it's splitting the Outer Banks and Bermuda enough to prevent major impacts. Now, listen, I still think we're going to get some significant impacts out on the Outer Banks, regardless if this stays the same or not. I said this in the last couple videos. I think that the Outer Banks is a Category 2 or 3 hurricane away or higher from getting completely wiped off the map. And some people might say, Mitch, man, you shouldn't say that, or no, that's not true. But listen, I've been on the Outer Banks a time or two. And it is, I mean, literally, if you stand on some areas of the Outer Banks, I mean, you can almost get a football and throw it to one on the east side to the west side. I mean, it's probably not that thin. I'm probably over exaggerating. But listen, I mean, I've camped out there. It's nice. It's beautiful. But it just wouldn't take much. And we've been lucky so far. Do I think this is going to bring 100, 120 mile per hour winds to the Outer Banks? No, I don't. But I don't think it'll take much, which is why, and thank you, Zach Holder. I'm sure he ain't watching my video, but he pulled up this graphic. Dare County issues a state of emergency ahead of Erin. Mandatory evacuation for Cape Hatteras, for Hatteras Island, Rodamp southward. And here's the release. So, if you want to pause the video and read this, obviously if you live out in the Outer Banks and you're tuning in, then you're probably already evacuating. But I mean, this is a mandatory evacuation. So, I mean, this is a big deal. It's a big deal, guys. So, this is the time frame on when you can see tropical storm force winds, 40 mile per hour winds or higher. Okay, so let's go back and look at this, see if we have any new information. Always like to check in for updates. We don't. And yeah, I mean, so that's it with Erin, guys. I know some people are probably thinking, Mitch, man, we're done hearing about this. This is a fish storm. Well, just because it's not going to probably make a direct impact to anybody, this is still going to just be a life-threatening storm for certain areas. It is right now, technically. Look how close it is to Hispaniola. So, anyways, next topic here, and we'll talk about this. We have a tropical wave that's more so closer to Africa right now, to say the Caribbean. It's right where this yellow X is, has a 30% chance to develop in this yellow area into a tropical depression or a next named storm, which is Fernan, the F name, within the next 7 days. So this went up from a 20 to a 30% chance, I believe, since our last video. But this is it right here. It doesn't look like a whole lot of anything, but just a whole lot of convection out here. Very unorganized thunderstorm activity. We just got to watch to see if anything develops out of something out here. But that's kind of where our energy, our source energy is right now. So what about the GFS? What is the latest one showing? I hadn't even looked at this one yet because it's still running, only 10 days out right now. But I want to start out on the Atlantic, further out in the MDR, main development region first. And here it goes. You can see a broad spin with this. This is our wave. And then we take this all the way out to about Friday morning. And we have an organizing tropical system starting to bear down on the Leeward Islands, Lesser Antilles. 1,007 millibar low. Let's go on and flip this. Of course, this is Erin racing out. Ignore that. We've already spoke on that. And here comes our tropical wave of interest now. If it goes right over the Greater Antilles, it's going to be interfered by higher elevation and just land. But, this energy goes right over the Greater Antilles. Is a tropical wave, depression, storm? Not sure. I mean, we're just going over model guidance. But of course, if we pretend that the Greater Antilles, when I say Greater Antilles, I'm talking about Cuba, Jamaica, Hispaniola, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico. If we pretended like this wasn't there, this would be a huge hurricane. Okay, very strong hurricane. But it is, so the GFS is showing a great representation that if a tropical system went right through here, it would struggle to strengthen. But as soon as it gets over land, you can see that millibar begins to drop, and all of a sudden, bang, we got a strong to major hurricane on this run of the GFS hitting South Florida. Okay, and this is as far out as the run goes, and this is honestly as far out as we need to go. And it looks like it tries to recurve, and I would imagine that it would recurve and then affect the southeast. But listen, we have continued to see run after run of something showing up with this, and I think we'll be tracking something with this sooner than later. But listen, I'm telling you right now, the Euro and a lot of model guidance does not like this going. It doesn't like it taking this route here. Okay, the Euro and a lot of other model guides likes the idea of this as it recurving just like Erin. So if you do look at the latest Euro, this is what it shows. This is the wave right here. We're getting into this coming Friday. I mean, this is right out ahead of us. It's not like we're tracking something like we just did with Erin, like a million days out. Which, by the way, for everybody that threw all the criticism of tracking, dude, why are you tracking something that's 15 days out? Now, I mean, we got a Hurricane Erin out there. So model guidance, yeah, I mean, it's used as a tool. It's not used to make a forecast, but I mean, it's gotten better, guys. So the Euro is trending a little bit stronger, has kind of a developing tropical cyclone north of the Leeward Islands, exactly where Erin goes. And it does try to develop this, but it takes the energy and heads it on out to sea. The icon takes us out to about Friday midday. We got a tropical cyclone right here, a very weak one, but it's there. See how close the latest icon gets to the Outer Banks. Man, the icon just really wants to get this super close to the Outer Banks. I'm telling you, that's not good. But anyways, the icon has it. What about the Euro ensemble? Now, you're going to see a lot of clutter from Erin right here. But I want you to focus down here on your screen. You see the L's popping up. This is starting off Thursday morning. This makes up 51 members. It's the 51-member Euro ensemble. So not all 51 members are probably going to develop something, but if it does, it'll show up on your screen. So here it is. That is a solid signal for a tropical wave trying to develop. Now it's going to take a lot of these members right into where Erin goes. So it's going to kind of all blend in together. It's going to be hard to see. But here it is. I mean, that is a solid signal for something. I mean, it's a growing signal, but it looks like a lot of these members are actually going out to sea. They're turning just like Erin likely is. Okay, now some of these members are kind of blended in with Erin's track. But you got a couple stragglers that are getting awfully close to the southeast coastline. Okay, and that's 10 days out. So we're still tracking Erin, but we're already saddling up the horse again, and we're about to track another storm system. So that's all I got, guys. Been making some pretty good timing with these videos lately. Let's see if there's any new information. I'm going to jump on my Twitter real quick and see if we got any new information. And I know a lot of people know Mike's weather page. Any new information on this? Hey, here's a nice discussion from the National Weather Service out of Wilmington, North Carolina, just talking about the powerful and numerous rip currents. Listen, the beach is going to be shut down across the East Coast this week. And just, don't go out there unless you have to. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff is just, this is my personal Twitter account, but just giving you I haven't showed this in a while, but this is your classic cone. But I love Zoom Earth so much that I normally show it this, but that's all I got. You see this area right here in this orange? That's the tropical storm. That's where your tropical storm force winds extend out away from the center. So this is already getting larger, and I expect this orange area to get even larger. See this brown area here? That's where your hurricane force wind gusts are. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for the amazing support over the last, basically first half of August. Went through a very slow period with my channel for about 4 months. And then all of a sudden, things just went absolutely crazy. The video last night, by the way, 100,000 views. Haven't read all the comments. I'm sure there's some feisty ones on that video. There always is on the videos that pop off. But I just want to say thank y'all for all the love, for giving me this platform to talk about what I love, the weather. For people who's been tuning in for any length of time, you guys know that it's been a bug. It's been a bother to me where I just, 2,700 videos, countless hours put in, make a video every day. Right now I'm making 2 videos a day. And you feel like you got a little bit of a monkey on your back. It's like I've said many times, I don't know anybody with a channel that has 100,000 subscribers, over 2,700 videos, that didn't have one video over 100,000 views until last night's video. So it was a huge accomplishment. Yeah, here's to many more. But more importantly, here's the growth of the channel, glorifying God through the channel. And if you're new, this channel is different. And you'll figure that out in time if you give it a chance. Stick around. We pray for one another. We look out for one another. We glorify God. We do Bible devotions in the mornings about 4 times a week. So stick around. I think you'll get something out of this channel. And, when it's busy like this, we're going to have to fight off negative comments. It just happens. That's the part of the growth, right? So appreciate y'all. Sorry for the rambling. I'm good for that. That's all I got. Stay safe, and we'll do it all again tomorrow morning. God bless.